Hello, welcome back. I'm Ron. Well, here's an interesting question for you. We know where the FAA stands on drones and FPVs in their airspace. The answer to that is Part 107 licenses, a lot of rules and regulations, and of course we got remote ID. But where does the FAA stand on UFOs, or as they call them now, UAPs, or unidentified anomalous phenomenon? Well, a quick search of the FAA website says persons wanting to report UFOs can do that on a data collection center like the National UFO Reporting Center, or in Part B, they say you could report it to any law enforcement agency. And well, clearly from last Wednesday's congressional hearings, that doesn't really work too well. I'd love to hear from you guys on this topic, and if you missed these hearings, you've just got to check them out. I'm telling you, it's way too much information for me to try to cover in a short YouTube video. These hearings actually are pretty long, but I'm going to show you a couple of quick clips that really stood out, at least in my mind.
I mean, we audit the Pentagon every year, and I've been here 5 years, and they failed the dadgum thing every year. They lose over $1 billion a year, we think, and I've told the Department of Defense maybe 60% of their assets are unaccounted for, whatever the heck that means. In the public sector, you go to jail for that kind of crap.
Well, if you watch that whole segment, it sure makes you ask yourself, where the hell did $1 billion go for the past 8+ years?
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
So just to be clear, he's saying that he believes that we're actually in possession of non-human biologics. Pretty interesting. And for those not familiar with Skiffs, a skiff is a sensitive, compartmented information facility. It's an ultra-secure room where officials and government contractors take extraordinary precautions to review highly classified information. And in a lot of these hearings, that was a lot of the answers or responses we were hearing, that they're going to have these conversations in a more secure location or a skiff.
Mr. Graves and Fravor, in the event that your encounters had become hostile, would you have had the capability to defend yourself, your crew, your aircraft?
Absolutely not.
Sir?
No.
Is based off of the information that you've been privy to, is there any indication that these UAPs are interested in our nuclear technology and capabilities?
Yes.
By external observation, sure, that could be a fair assessment, yeah. Yes.
Is there any indication that the Department of Energy is involved in UAP data collection and housing?
I don't have an answer.
I can't confirm or deny that in a public setting.
And could you do it in a secure setting?
Yes.
Mr. Fravor?
No, I don't know.
Well, okay, that's certainly something to be concerned about.
Just briefly, I also just want to note, particularly for the two pilots, and I have a question for Mr. Grush. One of the things that I found fascinating in our discussion, Mr. Graves, last night as well, is that you both described UAPs and formations and the way they are observed in space or in our air, and the way that they move is essentially ways in which current technology or aircraft that we know of are unable to actually function or move. And so will you just, for the public record, again, once again, briefly, just either describe or note that aircraft that are being witnessed, particularly by the 30 folks that you're working with, are essentially outside the scope of anything that we know of today and the technology we have today. Mr. Graves, Mr. Fravor?
Yes, the objects that are being seen by commercial pilots are performing maneuvers that are unexplainable due to our current understanding of our technology and our capabilities as a country, and that applies for the military as well.
Mr. Fravor?
Yeah, I concur with that. We have nothing that can stop in midair and go the other direction, nor do we have anything that can, like in our situation, come down from space, hang out for 3 hours, and go back up.
Thank you. My last question, and sometimes I know that you have also said some of these answers in the past, but we're trying to get them on the public record as well, which is really important. Mr. Gresh, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had the people with the firsthand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General.
Well, that certainly makes you wonder what the heck our government and probably other governments are probably in possession of. And to be clear, I'm not a UFO guy. I'm not all into this stuff. I just found this really interesting. But with these hearings, you've certainly got to stop and ask yourself a few questions. Like I said earlier, if you haven't seen the full hearings from this past Wednesday, well, you should really go and check them out. They're really interesting. They're extremely interesting, and clearly there's a lot of folks seeing a lot of stuff in the skies that aren't drones or FPVs that can't be explained. And whatever they are, they're clearly a threat to commercial and military aircraft, probably a lot more than DJI drones or any other kind of drone flying around out there in our airspace. So what do you guys think about these hearings? Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. Now, I'm not sure if any other channels, drone-related content channels, things like that, are going to be talking about these types of topics, but I found them extremely interesting and certainly worth at least a conversation. With that being said, I'd love to hear your thoughts, where your head is in this space, and if you're at all interested in these types of videos or having this conversation. That's it. Just wanted to touch on it. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.